As Democrats fail to accomplish a federal minimum wage, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez showed what pay is like for countries that have strong labor unions. These are countries, by the way, that don't actually have minimum wages. They don't even need to have a minimum wage because of how strong unions are. But here's the tweet. She says, "It's utterly embarrassing that pay people enough to live is a stance that's even up for debate. Override the parliamentarian and raise the wage. McDonald's workers in Denmark are paid $22 an hour plus six weeks of paid vacation. $15 an hour is a deep compromise in America, of course, a big one considering the phase-in. And remember, if they had accomplished a $15 an hour minimum wage through the coronavirus relief bill, it's not like it would pass and tomorrow minimum wage workers would see their income go from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. It would take 4 years to the $15 an hour to actually be implemented, right? It's a phase-in process. That's what AOC is referring to. But Nando, I mean, I kind of gave away a little bit of what I wanted to focus on in this story because yes, there are big differences between how workers are treated in some of these Scandinavian countries, Nordic countries versus the United States. And she specifically mentioned Denmark, which is actually known to have strong trade unions. And they also do not have to rely on their lawmakers or any politician pushing for a minimum wage because they have labor unions fight on behalf of workers there. And so I wanted you to talk about that a little bit because it's a theme that comes up a lot during your Decode segments on the weekend show that we host for Jacobin.
Yeah, the union density in Denmark, which is the percentage of workers who are in a union, is close to 70%. So 70% of the workers in Denmark belong to a labor union. In the United States, that number is closer to 9%. And in the in the private sector, private companies, it's much lower than that. So that's the difference right there. I mean, that's why workers in Denmark can lead decent lives with job security and fair wages and safety standards and things like that. The country is doing fine. It has not bankrupted the country. The country's doing great. And it just so happens, and it's not a coincidence, that Denmark basically every year tops the list of happiest countries, like the happiest citizenry. I'm sure there's still people in Denmark with heartbroken hearts and depression and things like that. But overall, the society is much healthier and much happier than ours. We are in the United States just declining in life expectancy, mostly due to deaths of despair, because we live in such a sick society, and people are so miserable that they're drinking themselves to death or committing suicide, which is leading to a declining life expectancy, which is unparalleled in the developed world. Every single other country has increasing life expectancy that is due to the misery of this country. And that is largely due to the fact that this labor force in this country is exploited and not unionized, and people feel alone and powerless to change anything. In Denmark, if you're a worker and you're mistreated, your union's got your back. And your union is strong and powerful and big and has the ear of the politicians and the leadership of the country and the bosses who own the companies, because they're so big and powerful. And so they're able to fight for your rights. And they're able to provide you with the kinds of protections and security that you need to be able to lead a normal, decent life. And that doesn't exist here. And again, there's always been this kind of propaganda in the United States that positions the prosperity of the nation in opposition with things like minimum wage or union power, and that's just false. It's absolutely false. The biggest growth that the United States has ever experienced was in the period after World War II through 1980. It just so happens that period was also the period with the highest marginal tax rates for the wealthy and the largest participation of workers in labor unions. As soon as the labor union density started to decline in 1980, that's when the economy started to slow down. So yeah, it's just that's the long and the short of it. We care about progressive politics, then you have to care about labor power, and that's there's just no There's no other way to do it. It's never been done any other way, ever in the history of mankind. So, yeah.
No, I mean, that's been crystallized for me, especially given some of the more recent debates that have been taking place among Democrats regarding the coronavirus relief bill and the $15 an hour minimum wage. Politics in the United States has purposely devolved into discussions about superficial things, hero worship, and I think that it's a real problem.
Seuss.
Right, Dr. Seuss, that kind of stuff. And it is a problem because what ends up happening is American politics becomes more about cults of personality as opposed to finding ways to work together collectively to apply pressure to make sure the government is working for us. I'm done with this person got elected and they're gonna save the day. No, they're not, but they're not gonna save the day. Because the way the system is set up, first of all, puts anyone who wants to change it at a disadvantage. Whether it's a progressive that campaigned on all the right things, and also once they're elected into that system, the amount of pressure to conform is overwhelming. And honestly, even with all the tools necessary to accomplish a robust relief package that includes a $15 an hour minimum wage, Democrats are bungling it because there just is not organized labor that's powerful enough to apply enough pressure to make them accountable to workers, right? Yeah. I want to give another example because Denmark isn't the only Nordic country that has incredibly strong labor unions and does not have to rely on a minimum wage. Nearly all Swedish citizens, for instance, belong to one of about 60 trade unions and 50 employers organizations that negotiate wage rates for hourly or regular hourly work, salaries, and overtime. The minimum wage tends to hover near 60 to 70% of the average wage in Sweden. Now, Swedish law also limits the work week to 40 hours, which sounds pretty delicious, just like the United States, except not really. However, it also dictates that all workers are entitled to 25 paid vacation days and 16 additional guys. Like they get the 25 vacation days and then they get 16 additional public holidays each year, far more generous than the United States standard, as you know. So it goes beyond getting paid appropriately for the work that you're doing. Yeah. It also offers protection so you're not living to work. You work to pay your bills, but it doesn't take up all your time. You can enjoy your friends, you can enjoy your family. You have a quality of life that doesn't lead to the despair that we're seeing in this country right now. Yeah,
people obsess over trying to figure out what's inside AOC's mind or AOC's heart, and I just don't really care. I mean, I like AOC, I really do, but I realize that without labor power behind her, she's just a person. She can't do it on her own. It's not about her really, and we're seeing specifically in the state of New York is a bunch of pretty left-wing Democrats being elected into office, not just AOC, but Jamal Bowman and then like at the state level, Julia Salazar and Jermaine Williams, all these people, and it's because New York is one of the rare exceptions in the United States in which the state has unusually high labor density. That's it. That's what it is. And again, it's labor density and labor power is what leads to progressive outcomes at the political level. It's not the other way around. It just never has been. Every once in a while, you might get some kind of weird glitch in the matrix, but it's a glitch. It's a blip. It's not anything real or lasting. The only way, if you care about progressive politics, if you care about sort of the things we all care about, that only comes through labor power. It's just the only way. Like the goodness of a politician's heart doesn't matter. FDR was able to implement the New Deal, even though he was a born aristocrat who was kind of a slippery guy, just a very slippery guy. He wasn't mean like Lyndon Johnson, but he was, he kind of had the politician thing of speaking both sides of his mouth. He was able to implement the New Deal because there was a very large and powerful labor movement behind him. That's it. Lyndon Johnson, who was not a nice man, probably not even a moral man, in any way was able to implement civil rights in the Great Society because of a large and powerful labor movement. That's it. That's it. And there's literally nothing else to it. So, yeah, I mean, if you care about these things, this is the kind of issue you have to care about if you're kind of on the left of center, like we are. So, yeah.
And please, I really encourage you guys to check out Nando's video on the PRO Act. He goes in depth about the history of basically destroying powerful labor unions in the country and what can be done through the passage of the PRO Act in order to protect organizing and unions in the US. And it could really help spur more organized labor, which we desperately need. So you can check that out at youtube.com/JacobinMag. And I know you'll enjoy it. So definitely watch that video and more of our content on that channel.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.